Hi everyone, Rachel Gerber here from The Gathering Place, and you can find our community at www.thegatheringplace.us. And we are so excited here this year to kick off our 2.0 webinar series with Michele Hershberger, who is going to be talking with us about why Anabaptist Youth Ministry Matters. What are those distinctives that make what we do in youth ministry distinctively Anabaptist from the big box church down the road, and why that's important. So, Michele, I just want to welcome you here today to The Gathering Place, and feel free to just take it and run with it.
Okay. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. And I moved to another place, so I want to check this out. Is the echo better?
The echo's great for me. Mm-hmm. The echo's great for me.
The echo's great for you. Okay.
I can hear it now, but
So,
I'll just be quiet. I can hear it now, but I'll just be quiet.
Can others hear me?
Yep.
Right. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Uh-oh.
We're good.
Okay, some.
Nope, we're all good.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. As Rachel said, what do we mean when we say Anabaptist Youth Ministry? And should it mean anything different? I believe very much that it should, that there is a difference and that it's a better difference. So let me kind of walk you through just a couple things, and part of this will be on PowerPoint, but please, my friends, don't let that stop you from interrupting, from writing something on chat. We can talk about different things. I have 7 things that I call different kind of Bible, different kind of Jesus, different kind of this and this and this, which maybe looks a little bit different than we know that Stuart Murray has talked about 7 distinctives. And by distinctives, I need something that maybe other theological streams also do, but we do more intentionally, or we do more emphatically. That's what I mean by distinctives. I have chosen the word different because a lot of times I'm trying to talk about these differences with high schoolers and with first and second year college students. And I think sometimes it's easy, if we contrast it with something else, it's easier to start to understand who we are. But that might not be the end all of how we define who we are. We don't want to just always be comparing ourselves, but that's where we're going to start today. I also just want to say that they're behind me. I have some of my Exploring Ministry students who have joined us as well. So let me kind of get started. If there isn't any difference, maybe we just need to close up shop. Mm-hmm. It's maybe that important. Different. And why Anabaptist? A lot of us have studied lots and lots of different theological streams. Some of you have studied that, like you, Regina, more than I have. And I think the more I study, the more I think that some of these Anabaptist distinctives are a true gift to the ecumenical world. And I want to be humble, but I also want to state that if I didn't think that this was the best theological system, I would go to what I think is the best theological system, right? I would go somewhere, I would become another kind of Christian. Many of my students say, oh, well, we're all just the same anyway. We all have different biases. And that's just, so I'm going to embrace my bias today as an Anabaptist and tell you how I think Anabaptist Youth Ministry is different. We're going to go to the first difference, and that's a different kind of Bible. The reason we start with the Bible is because I think that difference influences everything else about what we do in Anabaptist Youth Ministry. Rachel, if you can go to the PowerPoint that says different kind of Bible, and while she's working on that, I'll kind of get that started. 85% of all Christians do not view the Bible the way Anabaptists do. That's kind of wild, right? This is some of the stuff we've already said. And about 15% of us, but I think more and more all the time, are claiming what I call Christocentric or Christ-centered hermeneutics. And that really, really does make a lot of difference. In a nutshell, Jesus trumps the Old Testament. Or as we say here at Heston College, when the Bible seems to disagree, Jesus is the referee. Actually, the Bible does disagree. And sometimes when my Bibliters first find out about that, they are hot mad at me. But I'm like, let's just love the Bible well enough to look at all, this is what it is. Jesus trumps the Old Testament. So in other words, Jesus meant what he said, and he was talking to us. And that helps us become a different kind of youth ministry, because that is the foundation for seeing Jesus differently, seeing the church differently, seeing who we are as followers of Christ differently. The ethics of the Old Testament sometimes, not all the time, sometimes contradict the ethics of the New Testament. And Anabaptists have made a decision that we always go with Jesus. I remember the old Hebrews 1:1-3. Long ago, God spoke to our ancestors in many and various ways through the prophets. But now God has spoken to us through a Son. And he is the exact imprint of God. Jesus himself uses Christ-centered hermeneutics. You have heard that it was said, but I say to you. That helps form our biblical foundation for things like nonviolence and peacemaking. The other thing that I think that we do a little bit more than some others is I think that we see God as being very active in the world. That in other words, I think Anabaptists, see Jesus as the Word a little bit more than the Bible is the Word. Am I gonna get fried at the stake for that one? Let me take a moment for you to think about how that might make a typical Anabaptist youth ministry different. Take a moment in silence, write some things on chat, and we'll talk about them. Go. How are you guys? You guys are seeing it from there? You guys are good? Here we go. Do we do this? Is that my chat? I'm looking at my own chat. No. Rachel, do we have anything? Here's something from Michael.
It's hard for me to look because I have to go back. I can't see what.
Okay, I'll look at this.
Okay.
Less Bible memory, more hands-on ministry. Yes, Michael, yes. Yeah. It's not that Bible memory is wrong, but it's more hands-on. Let me ask you this question. How many of you, even if you never use the H word, hermeneutics, how many of you teach hermeneutics at the high school level? Oh, that's right. I can't see hands being raised. Just say, yeah, just, you can put that down in chat. Relational ministry becomes a focus. Yes. Yes. I would really encourage you in my experience with high schoolers, particularly juniors and seniors, they've read the Bible enough that they know that there are wars in the Old Testament, and Jesus says no to wars in the New Testament, and they want to know how that works. How can we say the Bible is completely and totally inspired, but when there's disagreements, we go with Jesus, right? Any other ways you can think of that makes, because of this Bible difference, we do youth ministry different. We want them to be spiritual. I'm getting my glasses on. Yeah, we do want them to be spiritual self-feeders. And let me ask this question. How many of you do the yucky stories in the Bible? Jephthah sacrificing his daughter, right? Do we dare to do the whole Bible? I love this one from Clayton. If Jesus is the word, it's alive and active. It's less about teaching rules and more about living well. Yep. Absolutely. And I think that's what our postmodern young adults, that's what they're about. Can I go on to my second one, different kind of Jesus? We can always come back. And we do, traditionalists don't always do it. Yeah, I know they don't. I know they don't. Let's do different kind of Bible. Jesus. Here we go. It's Thursday. This is maybe the biggest one for me. And again, it's undergirded by a different kind of Bible. Jesus' life and teachings are important, and not just his death and resurrection. We would think that the Apostles' Creed is a little bit lacking. That goes right from, born by the Virgin Mary, died under Pontius Pilate. Like, what? No, the death is not the only calendar date for Jesus. His life and teachings matter. When we say that, then, we also understand that salvation is viewed much more broadly as Anabaptists. Too much we help kids get saved, but we don't help them get healed. And if abandonment is a huge problem, as Chap Clark has talked about, this is huge. We're not just helping them get a ticket to heaven. We're helping them get healing now. How does salvation impact not only what happens to us after we die, but also how we live with the people who drive us crazy, how we love our own bodies and stop cutting, how we love the physical world and become environmentalists. We have a different kind of Jesus. I think that one of the ways that Anabaptists are different is we see our main job as following Jesus. I happen to be a car mechanic on the side. I happen to teach Bible at Heston College on the side, but I am a Christian. That's my first job. Salvation is a process. It's a relationship. This is so simple and so complex that people are shy away from this. It's following Jesus. No more formulas. I'm going to stop there. And again, I would like for you to write. What do you think? If we have that kind of a Jesus as Anabaptists, then how do we do youth ministry differently? And you guys can punch in too if you want.
What was the question again?
How do we do youth ministry differently if we have a different kind of Jesus than most of the world?
Yeah, that's a weird question. Like, do you mean that?
If we have a different theology about Jesus, how does that translate into, or specifically, I'm talking specifically to youth ministers.
If we think differently about our Jesus, then our ministry is going to be different.
Right, and I'm asking how. What do we emphasize that other youth ministries wouldn't emphasize?
As Anabaptists.
As Anabaptists. That's what I'm asking. Here we go. Here's some of our comments. We don't have the altar call as the pinnacle of every gathering. Yes. Ethics that flow naturally from discipleship to Jesus and are grounded in the Christian story. Yes. Less programming and more relationship building. Yes. We're calling you to follow Christ in various ways in everything we do. Oh, look at this from Michael. Our success metric and measurement point changes is building long-term disciples versus decisions. We can be practical and connect to day-to-day life and problems. We can expect a congruent life on Sunday through the week. Yes, Rachel. And that one's a big one for me. How do we help our high schoolers? Because they're just with their formal thought, just being able to start doing this. What does it mean to be the same on Thursday night, or maybe better yet, Friday night, than it is on Sunday morning? Because some of that stuff's not happening. If salvation is not just a destination, it transforms the way we live day to day. We begin to talk with students that eternity can be part of the here and now. That's right, John, the Gospel of John, eternal life starts now. Life that reflects life, not life motivated by death or scared. Let's not scare people into heaven. Yeah. And so I remember the time that this really clicked with me as a young youth minister in Oregon. I was never in Ohio. Because I think this psychological thing we call abandonment that Chap Clark talks about has been happening for at least a generation. But too much in my church, we were just talking about getting people saved. My stars, you were a junior in high school and suddenly you had to be baptized. That felt like delayed infant baptism. What does it mean to talk about a Jesus who cares about you and your problem of hating your body? How is that? And if we look at the life and teachings of Jesus, he's helping people who are social outcasts, who are feeling abandoned. Thank you. Wow. This is good stuff. For time's sake, I want to get through 7. This is great stuff. Here we go. Let's take the third one. After different kind of, I've lost my place. Different kind of church. Let's do it. Anabaptists view church in a different way than other denominations, other spirituality streams. For us, salvation is connected to becoming a part of the people of God. How many of you have high schoolers who want to get baptized, but they don't want to become a part of the church? Is that an issue? We should probably talk about that. While other theological streams do this, we emphasize more discerning truth together. We don't have a pope, but we aren't completely individualistic. We try to avoid both of those ditches. And it's really hard work to discern truth together. Who makes decisions in your youth group? Is it just you? Is it always you? We discern truth together. Our first allegiance is to the church, not the state. And again, sometimes when we think about distinctives, the only thing we think about is nonviolence. But if church is the first allegiance, see, that says something about the state and nonviolence. If the Bible has different ethics and we always go with Jesus, do you see how that feeds into it? So nonviolence might not be the biggest thing, but it's all of these things put together. And finally, I think we see church as mission. Actually, I think as Anabaptist Mennonites, we need to work on that. We haven't gotten that one down pretty much. But we are together as the body of Christ in a somewhat different way than other theological streams. And I think that if we claim who we really are, that's really, really good stuff. Take some time now in silence. If we see church as discerning truth together, and as church is our first allegiance, and that being a Christian is being part of the church, how does that change youth ministry? Right. Or in your sense, talk. The question: how do we do youth ministry if we have a different vision of what church is? Here are some of these answers. If we see church as discerning truth together and salvation is connected to that's my question. While you're writing, come on in, Mariah, if you want to. Here's the new conversion I think we need to have. A conversion from ministry to ministry with. Can you feel the difference? And too many times I have done ministry to. And I'm the giver. My students are the receivers. It's messier to do ministry with. I'm reading what you're saying. Hearing from the least of these. We're not afraid of facing the messy and difficult questions that youth confront in their lives. Oh, I love this one from Candy. Quit saying youth are the future of the church. They're part of the church. That's exactly right. That's what we've got to recapture. How is it that 13-year-old junior higher little Michelle. I remember the time that I actually had a Michelle who was 13 who asked to pray for me one time when she caught me being in tears. And I did the embarrassing thing of telling her I had allergies because I was just too doggone embarrassed to tell her that I was spiritually shot to put. And she was smart enough as a 13-year-old that she saw through it. And she asked me again, can I pray for you, Michelle? And I said, yes. And 13-year-old junior high Michelle saved me that day. I'm reading some more of your stuff. Youth need to be integrated into adult programming rather than segregating them. Yep, the one-eared, but baby, is that one hard? What makes that one so hard? Our adults and our youth sponsors need to get that conversion from ministry to ministry with. Intergenerational Sunday school is never going to work until our adults get it out of their head that they're the experts. Older members of the congregation share their faith stories with the youth and have conversations together. Yes. Do we? Yes. Say something, Noah.
Part of the Sunday school having youth in there, I think it's a two-way street. Adults need to realize that youth have something to say, but youth need to be given a place and they need to be given support to say something.
Yeah.
They need to be given the freedom to say, hey, you have your own faith walk. Let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not the thing.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard that on the, yeah, they say they did. That was great, Noah. Thank you. I'm reading some other things. Is there a class coming in here?
FYE, sorry.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. We have a May Day. FYE is in here. Is it possible to, I did not realize this, and I'm doing a podcast.
You guys just check it out.
We're having a little bit of more than one person in the class. My bad. Okay. It's a little crazy here at Hudson College. All right. I'm going to read the last one, and then we're going to go to our next one. Are adults ready to be real about themselves and their faith journeys in front of the youth instead of acting like we have it all together? Yep. It'll be easier to integrate with adults if we can let our guard down. Christ is subversive. How do our programs reflect that? Yeah, he wasn't Mr. Rogers. How do we reflect that? And that might touch into what I would say is a different kind of power, different kind of service. Again, and I think our Anabaptist beliefs would help us redefine what youth ministry is. Youth ministry is not to build a safe little space so that all of our high schoolers can safely be in youth group and never do anything naughty and be good American citizens. We need to make Jesus weird again. Oh, yes, we do. Oh, yes, we do. I love these comments. It's possible, right, for everyone to see them, I'm assuming? Let's go on to a different kind of power. Under a different kind of power, I actually teach this word to my high schoolers. It is Gelassenheit. It is yieldedness. Thank you for saying it. It is, how do we see, or Greg Boyd would call it, power under. Not power over, not coercive power, but power under. And I went ahead and made this a different distinctive than just nonviolence or enemy love, because I think it involves something greater and grander than that. How do we do leadership differently? One of my favorite stories is Jesus and the temptations in the wilderness in all the synoptic gospels. How do we take our cues from Jesus and do a power that refuses to be coercive in any way? I think that's one of our distinctives. I think that's one of the things that our high schoolers can learn. I think it's one of the hardest things for us to learn. I'm going to stop there again and give you some time to jump right in with your chat and talk to me about power under, a different kind of power. You maybe could even tap in and type 2. Try it if you wanted to. It'll probably say from me, but
It's just a mirror.
okay. No, so it won't then.
The only way to do it would be walk over there.
Yeah, but yeah. A different kind of power a lot of times connects with what I would call a different kind of church in how youth are affirmed as leaders now. I think those two things work together. Maybe servant leadership as a title is just too old and outdated, but I think there is something to that and how we work with that. I'm reading some of your comments. Here we go. I've had some interesting experiences in empowering the youth to brainstorm and give input on how they want to grow spiritually through the year. Their having power makes them more receptive and engaged. Yes. We believe that our youth have something to say, give, and offer, and we release our own power to give them the space to explore their leadership. In what ways can we model this for our youth in church decision-making business meetings? I can't get them to come to business meetings, as well as incorporate it into the life of our youth group. Trusting our youth to lead us. Anybody want to play devil's advocate about you've tried this and the leading got kind of messy? I think it's worth the mess. I think that's part of the way we are authentic. If you're going to come up here, we have some more comments coming in.
I think it's not good enough for the church to simply put a youth in a position of leadership and say, do it. I think there needs to be growth and guidance and say, this is how you can be a leader. This is how we want you to work in the church. That way they learn and they are a part of what's going on instead of just sitting back and listening.
Yeah. That was Noah Yoder, first-year student here from Virginia. Yeah, and I agree. A lot of times I use a 4-step delegation process. You know, the first step is you do it. The second step is you do it and they help. The third step is they do it and you help. And the fourth step is they do it. And sometimes we only work at steps 2 and 3. But we must avoid both ditches of, here you go, plan the youth Sunday, or I'm going to do everything. In response to Regina, I bribed them to come to congregational things. Good, Clayton. Bribing is always good. Having few teacher-student learning moments and more learning happenings from student to student. Yes. Yes. I think things like prayer stations, more interactive things, food bribes. You've got to go, I know.
I know there's a little input. There's a book I read. I think it's called Revolution. And it's about teenage revolution against society's low expectations. So it's about incorporating the youth to have more responsibility in our society because we don't give them enough responsibility in our lives.
Ooh, I like it. Austin is recommending a book called Revolution.
Revolution. Revolution.
Oh, Reb.
Rebelling.
Rebelling. So it's Revolution. I'll have to get that book.
It's a short read.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. These are great suggestions. I have some more, but it's wonderful to kind of do this now. And part of, again, the overall goal here is to do practical theological reflection, to not just do what we do just because we've always done it that way, but intentionality in everything. Yeah, we do need to be careful that we don't have token youth, that's for sure. It's not about the adults. Okay, to move on to different kind of love. Let's do different kind of love. When I talk to people who are not Anabaptists, this usually after they talk about the Amish dress, which is crazy, they do have an awareness that we are pacifists, nonviolent, and that's usually what they want to talk about. I'd say that that is also true for my own youth. But again, I just see it so much more broadly and bigger than this. There's somewhere else. Does somebody know where Donovan's at?
There's a sign right there.
There's a sign. Yeah, help her out. Okay, different kind of love. I like to call this different kind of love enemy love, which is broader and better than just don't kill people. And I think for our youth to feel the integrity that I think that they want us to feel in our youth ministries, it has to go to this point, which is miraculous, which means transformation and conversion for us as well. What does it mean to move to an actual enemy love? We're going way beyond just doing them harm. I think for us to be true to our own Anabaptist theology, it can't be just not going to war, but it has to be working for social justice issues. How much do your youth know about Black Lives Matter? Are you going to go to any of their rallies? Will you take them to Selma to see the bridge and to learn what happened in 1965? Do they understand many of our social issues? Have you met with people who work in immigration, who are recent immigrants? We have a different kind of love. And again, just to reiterate, a lot of this is based on the first two. If you can get your whole congregation to understand a different kind of Bible, one that gives Jesus and his words more authority than the rest of the Bible, and if you can understand that Jesus followed in all of life and not just a ticket to heaven, then a lot of these other things, oh yeah.
Why?
Ooh, yeah. Let me ask why. The question is, many of our congregations would push against us taking our students to support those kinds of things. I'm not terribly surprised, but can you say why?
Oh, that pushes youth away, because youth care about what's going on, and if the church doesn't want them to experience it and to know what it means to be a Christian in those social issues, they're going to be turned away.
I'm hoping you heard what Noah said, that that's a big turnoff for youth. Yeah. Yeah. So what do we do? I mean, what can we do? And is this where the subversive thing comes in? Is it that our adults don't understand Black Lives Matter? They've misunderstood it? Yeah, I think too it doesn't like to get too political. I think that's us being chicken. I mean, there's always the danger that we get on the wrong side that we don't understand. But Jesus was political. We've got to get past Jesus as Mr. Rogers, because nobody would crucify Mr. Rogers. We might be pushing a political agenda. Well, areas like hosting the stranger or fighting poverty, those are political. Now, I think it's okay to do those being as, not doing it as a Democrat or as a Republican, but doing it as a follower of Jesus. But anytime we take on any of the prophetic role, we're going to tick people off. Here's some comments. I'm going to read this one. Here's the big challenge. Are we preparing the next generation of participants and leaders in the church as it is, and keeping our jobs, or prepping a new generation of Jesus followers who will create new forms of church? Pushes us in ways we don't like to be pushed, okay? In Canada, building relationships with Indigenous neighbors means grappling with the fact that we live on land that was taken without consent. It's hard to deal with, so it's easier to not go there. This is stuff I'm hoping to preach on in the near future. Go, yes. I've had some of my students challenge me to go to North Dakota, which is not quite the Canada Indigenous thing, but it's the pipeline thing. What am I going to do? Church refugees. Okay. Yeah. Shanna, with the church refugees, is it if we do the radical thing, the political thing, we become refugees? Is that the point?
It's a book about a sociological study. A couple of sociologists went and looked for people who were done with church, people who had left church because they were just done with it. They'd given up on it. And they were people who remained followers of Jesus, remained in a relationship with God, but felt that they couldn't do it within the church structures. And so they asked them, what it was that kind of made them give up on church and what it was that they are still pursuing in their faith. And it's really interesting because so many people said that they weren't able to actively love other people the way Christ calls them to within their church structures or with the sanction of their church. And so, so many people want to work for justice and want to, do something for Jesus. And this book talks about those issues. And so if that's something that you're struggling with, like, why doesn't my church understand that this is, because of Jesus, that I want to teach this or do this, I think this would be a helpful book.
Thank you. Thank you, Shanna. Wow, I've not heard of that book. And the thing of it is, I believe that as we work for social justice, we do need the church so desperately, because the church offers hope. If I work just for social justice, I can get so discouraged. And some of my friends who are really into peacemaking and justice, but not so much into the church, I think a general theme is that discouragement. I think the church helps us to love our enemies, and sometimes our enemies are the people from the other political party or Christians who we think are not with it in a social justice way. If their parents aren't involved in it, yeah. Well, they take their cues, yeah. Is it possible, and this might be a 2 or 3 generation problem, that we have so taught a vanilla white Jesus that we don't even see how Jesus is connected to justice? Yeah, the consensus thing. Yep. Making social justice experiences multi-generational. Yep. Giving options for adults to participate and give feedback without just making assumptions. That's very good. Yeah. I think that we can, and I see Mennonite Mission Network and other Eastern Mennonite Network doing this to re-understand why we do trips, if we do the trips, and you all know how deadly those can be. But if we can go so that we can get a new understanding of a Jesus that works for justice, for example, a learning trip to Selma, Alabama, it can make all the difference in the world. reading from Scott here. These issues are TV issues. Oh, our students are removed. Okay. We may be working at other social justice issues in our own communities, but they don't feel as big. Sure, but they're very important. Yeah. Oh, that's good. This will be the March. I'm telling you what, a mass shooting in Heston, Kansas brings this stuff home really close and fast. And I'm afraid we're sweeping this stuff under the rug too fast here in Heston. I don't know what Clayton would say to that. This stuff can happen anywhere. I didn't care so much about gun control until 4 people were shot in Heston. The issue's not real to them. Sure, of course, yeah. So what issues can be or real in your home communities? Oh, this is great stuff. I'm going to move us on to a different kind of service. Till 1. I made a big mistake. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Different kind of service. Anabaptist, I think, maybe we don't have an edge on this anymore. I kind of think we do. We emphasize ministry with instead of ministry to, because that's connected to Gelassenheit. If every person has a special and unique picture of God, a unique thing to give, do you see how that connects with different kind of church? Then we each and every one of us are needed, and we have to discern truth together as a community. There again, different kind of church. And here, if each person has something to give, then each person that we go to serve also is and can serve us. I've heard and I hope this Gathering Place March thing is filled up to the brim, because we go and do service trips with self-righteousness that stinks to high heaven. Oh my goodness. And miss out on the gift that they have to give us. The other big piece that I hope is still a distinctive for us is our emphasis on simple living. What's a little bit tricky here as I work with Mennonite churches of color is for some of them, they feel like the simple living theology has been rammed down their throats, and they say, you know what, Michelle, if you've been in generational poverty for a long time, we need to hear about a Jesus who provides for our every needs. And so I want to be sensitive to that as well. Let's take a minute. Tell me about maybe some things you're already doing that where service is done differently because you are an Anabaptist youth ministry.
Relationship.
Yep. My students are saying relationship building is huge.
What we talked about today in class, which is what is the mission?
Yeah.
Are you going there to receive? Are you going there to build? I think Anabaptists do a good. I think what I've experienced in my youth groups in my hometown, they've done a good job of seeing what needs to be done. And they did.
Yep. I'm hearing my students say that by and large, because of our theology, we haven't gone in so much being self-righteous and doing service that really benefits us more than them. But I imagine we have a ways to go as well. I'm reading some of the comments here. Yep, it's not about saving souls. Doing what we're told. Yep. Work as worship. Thank you. Doing life together. Living with the participants. Chores together. Worship nights together. The crazy thing is to be so feeling okay about who you are that you can actually give the people we come to serve exactly what they need, which may be that they need to give to us. I framed our trip as what it was, a chance for us to learn from others. Yes, that is so much that Anabaptist is different. Not a trip that actually helps the people we're serving. We recently did an all-congregation Sunday morning service. It was a really great intergenerational activity. Yeah, maybe. It sounds like it was a great idea. Stop calling it a service trip and call it a learning trip. There it is, right. And know that those ministries would survive without our help. Yeah. How can we see our community and what our community needs when we return? Yeah. How do we move from going on service trips to having a servant's heart every day? I mean, that's the goal. Oh, yes, that's beautiful. Is service more important than spiritual growth? Yeah, that's a problem. Making sure we look for God and not us at work. When we do that, we have a greater chance of not missing the point. One of the things we talk about a lot in our class is the church doesn't do missions, church is mission. And that God is the one doing mission, we just join God. And I think that changes everything. It's not about us. These are wonderful ideas. I'm going to go to the last one, which is different kind of witness. Different kind of witness is another clear marker for us as Anabaptists, because we held up the value, the importance of believers' baptism versus infant baptism, which had not been a practice for 1,500 years. As soon as Constantine started the wedding or the marriage of church and state, we had more infant baptism than believers' baptism. That's the hallmark of who we are. Are we resting on our laurels on that one so that our youth don't truly understand how important that is? How is it both the living out and also the talking about our faith is a genuine reflection of the transformation in our lives? I would say that one of the weakest things as Anabaptists today is that we don't do very well about speaking about our faith. And the early Anabaptists were so excited that you couldn't shut them up. I have some theories as to why that is. I think we're maybe knee-jerking against evangelism gone wrong, or evangelism that espouses a non-biblical, too simple salvation. And again, there's that different kind of Jesus, where Jesus saves all of us in all of our lives, not just a ticket to heaven. But just because it's been done poorly in the past doesn't mean we can't do it right, right? Now, here comes the final question. What are some specific ways that we do witness differently because we are Anabaptists? Go. Pretty good. As you're typing, I'll just say to Rachel, I made a kind of a last minute decision to kind of do the specific how-tos right next to the distinctives. So if we don't get to those later PowerPoints, no big deal.
Okay.
Oh, you don't like the word witness. Oh, do you not personally not like the word witness, or you think that Anabaptists in general don't like witness?
I was thinking Anabaptist.
I do think we like to be the quiet of the land.
I think it makes us nervous.
Say it again.
I was just going to say it makes us nervous, I think.
Yeah. But maybe we should talk about that. Right? I was purposeful in witness because I'm afraid if I just put different kind of baptism, wouldn't get to this part. Clayton says, work and live out our faith first. Perhaps sharing vocally when invited later. Yeah. But I also see, the scary part about that is maybe later never comes. Not because they're not interested, because we just don't want to put ourselves out there. We love service. Yep. Yeah. And here's the deal. We're so afraid of being seen as intolerant or judgmental. Postmoderns are tolerant of everything except for people they perceive to be intolerant. And we smell that like crazy. But you know what? That's chicken. Not all values have equal importance. Not all opinions have equal value. That's what I'm trying to say. I think, yeah, we build relationships, but there comes a point where I say, look, I think if you take a big step and talk to Jesus, who I know is invisible, and talk to him about it, I think he can help you. I mean, yeah, you got to build some money in the relationship bank. But you put in enough money, and then you can make a withdrawal and talk about Jesus. I think we need to be brave enough to do it. How many of you have youth, high schoolers, who have a very hard time articulating their faith? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Kenda Creasy-Dean says that one of the greatest ways to fight the MTD God, moralistic therapeutic deism, is to give our students a language to articulate faith. But if we don't articulate our faith, that's never going to happen. One of the things now I'm going to toot my own horn, Bib Lit, we actually help students be able to tell their faith story by the end of the semester. Even my non-Christians, so they tell a psychological story. But to get people to talk about those deep issues is a huge gift. I'm going to read your comments. Feels like risk management. Okay. Basically sharing his own faith. I want to be able to do that. Oh, I love that, Adam. Yes, I want to do that too. You know, the thing of it is, Jesus talked obviously about his faith, and he did it in such a loving way that like tax collectors and prostitutes, they were like magnet. He was a magnet for them. Like, that's the kind of Christian I want to be. Just knowing that we're getting close on time, and so I'm going to open it wide up for your questions, and I'm going to make some concluding remarks. I think I'll do that right now, and then we can take your questions. In a nutshell, we have a unique gift to give. We actually, I think, are closer to the biblical Jesus than other theological streams, but we have to take some daring risks to be Anabaptists. You know what? We don't have simplistic theology. We just don't. Wish we did. We don't. But our postmodern high schoolers don't want something simplistic. They're okay jumping into the complexities. How do I love my enemy? How do I love the veterans that are already in my community? How do I love the youth members whose dads are military? We can, but I'm encouraging all of us as youth leaders to trust Jesus ourselves and jump into the mess. This is not the time to be chicken, and it's not the time to avoid the hard stuff. And maybe more than anything, that's what it means to be Anabaptist right now. And the good news is Jesus is with us. That's the good news. Be different. Because a lot of the other stuff out there in youth ministry isn't authentic and it isn't biblical. Your comments and questions. I'm going to stop.
Thanks, Michelle. Does anybody have any verbal kind of responses that they want to give right now? Feel free to do that as well. I do see a comment there from Krista about, Michelle, do you have any resources to suggest related to faith language for youth?
I got to turn my chat off. I'm sorry. Say that question again.
Oh, Krista
I
has
gotta get
a,
my chat back on.
sure.
I didn't hear that.
Krista has a comment just about, do you have any resources related to about how to give faith language for youth? Do you have any resources related to about how to give faith language for youth?
This is going to sound awful. A new book that I just wrote, The Bible as Story, which you can get on Amazon, or you can, and it's even cheaper if you get it at Heston College. It is what we do as the Biblit class at Heston, and because it makes all the little Bible stories become one big Bible story. I think it does help in that way. And at the end, we have a person who actually has written out how their faith story connects with the Bible story, which we creatively call Heilsgeschichte. I think that's the only thing that I have. But even if you give them, so when we talk about sin, we talk about the 4 broken relationships. You don't have to define sin that way, but if you just have a way to make it more real for them. I work very hard when I work with high schoolers to give them other ways of saying it. So I'll say, give a 1-sentence definition of sin. Now say, in other words, and elaborate. And suddenly, they're really understanding sin. And then I'll say, okay, give me a metaphor of sin. So I take almost every theological concept, and we do a state it, elaborate it. I'll put this on an email if we run out of time. Give an example and make a metaphor. And then suddenly, they're like, oh, so we do this in the class today on mission. Mission is like being a gardener. We cultivate the soil, but only God can give the rain and sun. Is that missional? That's totally missional. And I can remember gardener. So I give my students lots of metaphors that I think are theologically sound.
There was another comment.
There is another. Can you read it for me? Oh, how did my comments go? Oh, have you ever used Mennonties? Yes, I have. And I've evaluated curriculum and I've thrown some curriculum out. But Mennonties is another way to
It seems like Michelle might have frozen. Is everyone else there? Yes? All right. Well, I do see that it is 2:00 and Michelle has frozen. What a way to end, but I really appreciate what Michelle has brought to this group regarding what are the distinctives of Anabaptism. I think it's so helpful for us to, I think oftentimes we intuit our theology, and sometimes to go back to the beginning, to the A, B's, and C's, to the 1, 2s, and 3s, and to be able to articulate and hear again, how are we distinctly unique, and why does that make a difference, is so incredibly helpful. So Michelle, wherever you are, thank you so much for giving yourself here to this hour, and to each of you for also giving part of your life and investing so deeply here within the chat. I think the conversation we had was really helpful. And just to throw it out here, Shanna, if you want to wave. Shanna over there from Central Plains, she is going to be our study circle leader. And so she is leading our study circle this month, September 21st, right?
21st or 22nd. Let me just quick check.
So Michelle, Shanna will be doing that. Is that the 21st?
It's the 21st. Yeah.
21st. All right. So sign up to be a part of that, as well as if you want to continue the conversation at the end of the month, we'll be having a learning circle, which is just getting in touch with sort of this whole theme of why Anabaptist Youth Ministry Matters, informal kind of sharing of, our learnings for this whole month. So thanks again for joining the Gathering Place, and continue to check out the website and join our new Facebook page. It's called The Gathering Place. Twitter, Instagram, to stay on top of stuff. So until next time, Thanks so much, and have a great afternoon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.